Hello and welcome everyone to another exciting episode number 14th of the show, The Future of Web. So this is a podcast and a show about Web3 technologies. Here, we talk about what different personnel in Web3, be it investors, founders, designers, developers, testers, and like anybody who's into this, even community managers who are in this space, what they're doing and how they're impacting the this technology, this space. All right. And the idea of behind this is to educate and increase adoption. So that's why we started this. Hello and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending upon which part of the world you're joining in from. My name is Alek, and I am the founder of a company called Animal Solution. Now, we are a Web3 based design and development agency. Here, we go ahead and like help companies transition from Web2 to Web3, starting with education. Go and check out our LinkedIn page, our website. There you'll find some information there. All right. So moving on about the guest today, we have a very special guest. Like he's, we've been part of different communities for a long time, and like we know each other really well. And he's somebody who started his career as an IT project manager, worked there, and then he went to marketing, is that, and he's now currently running a company about advertising in Metaverse, and he's doing a tons of stuff, which we will discuss as we go along. He also has a podcast called Metavertising, which is amongst the top 5% most shared podcasts globally on Spotify and top 15% most followed globally. So he is none other than Eli. Let's just welcome him. Hello, Eli. Good morning.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hey. Pleasure is all mine, Eli. Pleasure is all mine. I think we all are very excited to know from you, to know about you, to what you do in space, and like it's fantastic. It's
Thank you.
Friday morning, right, in Sao Paulo. You're from Sao Paulo, right?
Yeah, that is
Nice
correct. Yeah,
place.
it's
Yeah,
pretty sunny here
yeah.
right
It's
now. It's a beautiful day.
yeah, as we can see. No, I've been to Sao Paulo, like multiple times. I remember I used to stay in in Murumbi. If I remember the
Oh,
name
nice.
correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So there's a
That's
Murumbi
super
Mall. I
cool.
remember. Yeah. So that was my most, because it's kind of central to most of the places in Sao Paulo. So it was easier to go and
Okay.
visit. So yeah,
All
fantastic.
right. That's really cool.
Cool. Yeah, nice. So cool. So let's start. So let's start with a question that I usually ask my all my guests. Like those initial ones, which is, what is it that gets you up every morning?
That is actually a really good question. I love it. I think I like to think that I have a mission, and that mission is not. I wouldn't say it's not 100% clear to me just yet, but I think part of that mission happens within marketing and technology, and I think
Mm-hmm.
helping other people and building my business and enabling other people to have better lives and have I don't know, like maybe just also making more money, or maybe I don't know, like building their own businesses, helping other people in general through my companies, through my businesses. I think that's part of my purpose. So yeah, so I would say that's part of the reason why I get up in the morning. And I would say, just basically having a better life, for myself as well, is part of the reason why I get up in the morning. And yeah, I think that's basically it. But I love the question.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you so much. And I love your answer. Like the purpose is you're very purpose driven, and you're trying to impact. Eventually, all of us have to work, and uh, take it or leave it. The world works on money, so you have to make it, and that is also a very important way to impact different lives. So fantastic. Like I really like what you said. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing
Thank you.
that with us. Yeah. So let's get to know you a little bit better. Like, so then again, can you share something about you which you have not really shared with other people yet? and something which you are comfortable sharing, like some little secret that you can easily share.
Well, typically I don't get asked, you know, that kind of stuff very often. So,
Yeah.
and what I'm, what I'm about to tell you is not, I wouldn't say it's a secret, but it's like it's something that doesn't get asked very often. And I think
Okay.
since we're talking about Web3, I think it's extremely relevant. So I love gaming. So I play League of Legends, I play Valorant, I play Fortnite, I play
Mm-hmm.
Roblox myself because I actually like it, and not because I want to educate myself around Web3 and just become have more spend more time in the metaverse, for example. That's actually not the reason why, but I love gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I love, I play Fortnite, as I said. I play Valorant. I play all of those games because I actually love it. And I've been a gamer ever since I was a little child. Like I remember my father. I
Mm-hmm.
was the first kid in my neighborhood to have a PlayStation, and then I was also the
Okay.
first kid to have a computer. I was the first kid to have a PlayStation 2 when it came out. So my father, he really strived to give me access to these kinds of technologies, I would say. And it really influenced me because I became a gamer. I
Mm-hmm.
became like this avid internet surfer, I would say, explorer, ever since I was a child. So I think, um, as I said, that's not something that I talk about very often. But yeah, but I think it's an interesting detail about me.
Oh, fantastic. So everybody who's listening in, you know something more about Eli right now. And we
Yeah,
have
definitely.
tons of people, watching it. I'm getting comments from Augusto, from Nicholas, from, Muhammad, and then, Arijit, like fantastic comments, on coming in. So there's another one, who's a gamer too. So nice,
Nice.
nice. So, so now you know what games Eli plays, right? Nice. So nice, interesting. So okay, like so you start. So that explains, like a bit of your journey, right? So like why you were so tech savvy and why you were into games, and I think maybe metaverse or whatever metaverse is, we'll discuss that later. Came kind of naturally, but you started your career as a IT project manager. If I remember the name is, I think that you started with Johnson and Johnson, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
actually my first job was in IT. It was actually in doing computer maintenance for a college here in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually a very tough job. Like I had to carry around computers, and they had like the college had a lot of stairs, and it was just
Mm-hmm.
it was a really tough job. But like that was my first job, and then I slowly transitioned into IT projects, and then became an IT project manager, and that was like the majority of my career. And then that was at Johnson and Johnson, and yeah, like that's how I back in 2018, that was like the last thing that I was doing before I got into marketing full time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so that's the next part, I was going to ask. Like, so then from IT maintenance and like being in IT, which is hardcore technical and hardwares and stuff, you started a company called NutriSow, right? If I pronounce that correctly. And you headed the marketing there. What a shift, right?
Yeah,
And then you
that
had
is correct.
yeah. So that's a kind of shift. Yeah, please go ahead.
That was actually an interesting story because what happened was back in 2018, I quit my job. I was working at Mars at the time as an IT project manager, as I said, and I wasn't feeling very fulfilled. So I decided to get
Uh-huh.
into marketing, and started to just basically learn marketing and do some stuff within marketing. And then about 1 year, maybe almost 2 years later, I met this guy here in the city. He had this amazing idea of creating the first Mio shake of Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the idea. And so he gave me the actual product and asked me to try it out. And then I tried it, and I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love it. The flavor was
Mm-hmm.
awesome, and it was just all around. It was a great product. And so he
Mm-hmm.
asked me to help him with the marketing, and I was like, sure, like I love it. You know, it's an amazing product. Why wouldn't I help you? Like it sounds like an amazing opportunity. And then
Mm-hmm.
quickly, like we started making a lot of money. It was really funny. Like back at the time, ads were working really well on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
um, and so we invested really heavy on ads, and we actually nailed the formula for running ads. And we had and back at the time I was already working a lot with ads,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it was just really quickly we started scaling the operation, scaling everything because of the ads working so well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like it was actually a brief amount of time that we worked together. I was at the company
Mm-hmm.
for about less than a year, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, it was an amazing experience all around.
Wow. That is nice, like, and now, I think, for the people listening in, the best part is yet to come. So you aced marketing, you scaled the company, right? Uh, just a sneak peek, do you still hold partnership in that company as a percentage,
No,
stocks or equity?
no, actually not, because due to problems of his own, because he's the main. I would say he's we're co-founders, kind of co-founders, because but you know, he asked me to come in, but he already had the idea.
Uh-huh.
He already had a lot of things going on, and he
Uh-huh.
actually offered me part of the company, and I was
Uh-huh.
super glad to accept. But however, due to issues in his own life, he had to stop
Mhm.
leading the company and take care of some other stuff. And so because of
Ah,
that, the
okay.
company, you know, like it didn't, it stopped the operation and whatnot. And so for
Mm.
that reason,
Okay.
like we had to stop.
Ah, okay. Cool. But anyways, gave you a good experience, and hopefully he
Oh
gets back
yeah,
up soon. Like it sounded
yeah.
like a
No,
great
it was
product.
awesome. No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was extremely profitable. Like it was very promising, and due to the ads, the stuff that we were doing within marketing was working extremely well. And so yeah, like it was actually unfortunate that he had to stop the operation, but it was just an amazing journey.
Nice, nice. Cool. That's good to know. So I think that's where, yeah. So then I think sometime in some, like in parallel, you started Augmentric, right? In parallel
That
while
is,
working there, right?
yeah, that is correct,
And mhm,
because actually the way that we met was actually
mhm,
through, you know, he wanted to be a client at the agency back at the time. And
mm,
so that's how we originally met. And so we started discussing, and we realized that he needed more than just an agency, and I decided to partner up with him and become one of the co-founders.
yeah. Yeah, so it's quite actually interesting, like how you meet people, and how one uh say, as a from a being a customer and a service provider or a vendor, you end up becoming partners, right? There are tons of examples, we hear, and especially on LinkedIn, like people coming together, collaborating. They met, for any official event or a professional event, and they, like come together, the synergies match. It's quite interesting that way as well, so what
Definitely,
what you
yeah,
can get.
it happens. It
Yeah,
happens, you know.
absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
keep making relationships because it's completely worth it.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. So now, say from Augmentric, now the focus is on metavertising, which for me is the like a combination of metaverse and advertising, right? So for you, like from Augmentric, was this a gradual progression, or this is something, like a sudden shift that, okay, no, let's do this now? How did that
Yeah,
came
I
about?
that's a good question, because like back in 2021 when I came up with the
Hmm.
idea of metavertising, and I, you know, back then, like the metaverse was like there were not many people discussing it, and it was a little a little before that, before Mark Zuckerberg actually said that he wanted to change the name of the company, and
Hmm.
decided to name the company Meta and focus on the metaverse. It was actually a little bit before that that I came up with the idea of metavertising. And so when he actually did that, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what I need to do. And so I decided to focus on that. And
Nice.
and then I created Metavertising and whatnot. I would say it was somehow a natural progression because, as I said, I used to do a lot of advertising when I started the agency, and that
Mm-hmm.
was the initial, like that's how I kind of started my career in marketing was through advertising. I used to do a lot of advertising. I've done advertising for agencies as well, both in Brazil and in the United States. And so
Mm-hmm.
when the metaverse started happening and I started envisioning what was going to happen, I
Mm-hmm.
immediately thought, okay, I think, I know that marketing is going to be huge now in the metaverse, but I
Mm-hmm.
think advertising specifically is going to have a special place in the metaverse. So
Mm-hmm.
so I decided to start focusing on that as well. And as I said, it was somewhat a natural progression because I was already doing a lot of ads, but also at the same time it wasn't, because back at the time at the agency I was doing a lot of B2B software marketing, which doesn't include ads necessarily. And so
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so it was, kind of like these two things happening at the same time.
Wow, nice. And I think like that turned out, Facebook be renamed as Meta turned out kind of blessing in disguise. Like blessing in disguise,
Yeah,
because this is what you wanted to do, and now everybody's talking about metaverse, metaverse, metaverse. So let me
true.
ask you straight: what is metaverse for you?
That is a good question because it's funny that we've been talking about the metaverse for like quite a while now, and there's still no official definition of it, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's the reason, one of the reasons why I think a lot of people don't understand literally what the metaverse is. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I think the literal definition of the word metaverse is metaverse, so it's an enhancement of the existing universe, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
means it could be getting into a virtual reality environment. It could be augmented reality because then you're enhancing your existing universe. It could be mixed reality. It could be like a combination of these things and whatnot. So I think it's literally speaking, it's an enhancement of the universe. So technically speaking, I believe that the metaverse should have a set of features that qualify it as a metaverse platform, for example. So if we're talking about virtual reality and augmented reality, if we're talking about a specific platform, then I believe there's a set of features that qualify it technically as a metaverse, right? So I think that is first and foremost a blockchain enabled structure, because the blockchain is what
Mm-hmm.
it's going to enable the other features that I'm going to talk about. So the second of all
Mm-hmm.
is a crypto economy, or a token economy, or tokenomics, as some
Mm-hmm.
people like to call it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's one of the main features, I think, because also that enables the creator economy, which I believe is going to be essential in metaverse platforms in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
I think the
Yeah.
third point is NFTs, obviously, because then it enables you to take your assets and transfer throughout platforms. And so, in that sense, you
Mm-hmm.
own the assets. It's not something that is
Mm-hmm.
bounded to the platform specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Also, wallets, obviously, because if we have a blockchain-enabled structure, if we have crypto economics or tokenomics, then a wallet is absolutely needed, and it allows you to own the assets. Um,
Yeah.
as I said, creator economy, I think that's also essential. A community, right? Also, a decentralized platform, or maybe a trustless platform. I think it's also
Mm-hmm.
something that is enabled by the blockchain. And last but not least, virtual reality and augmented reality. So I think when you put all of these things together, you have a metaverse platform, right? And there's also a set of technologies that enable it. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I'm talking about, edge computing, 5G, 6G, AI, Internet of Things. I think all of these things also come into play. But yeah, but I think that's both like a technical perspective, but also like a literal perspective of what the metaverse is.
Oh yes. Fantastic, the way you say it. And when you were saying it, I could hear some words of Remco coming in. Remco Sikema, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So how he defines
yeah, yeah, yeah.
metaverse as well. So it would have been good to have him also, like with you, maybe some other time. But so I think that's a very good definition and a description of like what metaverse should be. It should have a wider scale, that's for sure. It needs to be trustless on blockchain, have accessibility for creating a creator economy, which is what essentially Web3 is. And that's where you tie it up, right, with the Web3 becoming a metaverse. Because otherwise, it's just virtual worlds wrapped in a 2D browser, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think
Yeah.
there should be something that sets apart what a metaverse platform is than what
Mhm.
a platform like Second Life is, for example. I think
Yeah.
essentially these are the same because these are kind of like people living in these connected worlds in the sense of like kind of
Hmm.
like a multiplayer game. But at the same
Yeah.
time, Second Life is not technically a metaverse platform. So I think there should be ways for us to differ these two.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the important thing that I see, like from a experience point of view, whenever I explain metaverse to anybody, for me, it's again, similar to what you say, is an enhancement of your real experiences. You're not taking away them, it's just enhancing what experiences that you really already have. And, something that you are bound to have without this, like 2D screen. So that's where
True.
the HMDs, the head mounted displays play a very important role for enhancing the experience, right? And yeah, and like I have this idea about HMDs where you can also put a certain amount of a fog machine which generates a sense of a different smell. So suppose if you in going through a garden and you get to smell a lily or a rose, so that HMD should kind of experience that. I mean, you it's a weird, like the next level. So that
Yeah.
you experience it more, that you're actually passing through a rose garden or a lily or something, right?
Yeah.
And
It's actually just a way to make it more immersive, right? If you think about it.
yes,
That's
yeah,
it enhances the experience, yet, but at the end of the day it makes it more immersive. So you could use
yeah,
that type of technology. You could use haptic, you could use you like a combination of technologies in order to make it extremely immersive. So hopefully we get
yeah,
eventually we're going to get to a point where we're going to have the set of all of the technologies that make it extremely immersive,
yeah,
and this is going to enable people to live in these extremely immersive environments, virtual environments, with the sense
yeah.
that they're actually in reality, but it's actually not reality. It's quite scary to think about it, but at the same time it's quite exciting as well. So
Oh yes, absolutely. It's got to be very exciting. Why? I think what we really need to experience now is that the interoperability between different platforms. So to say, the way we have right now. So we have a bigger platforms like Sandbox and Decentraland, which are kind of leading the bandwagon there in metaverse definition. But we have a lot of other platforms coming up, right? And they need to be, I mean, the tech needs to catch up with it to make it interoperable, so that you can
true.
jump from one place to the other, which is independent of the blockchain it is built on, right?
True. I think interoperability is also an important aspect that I actually forgot to mention when it comes to the features of a metaverse platform. I knew I was forgetting something, but I couldn't remember what it was. But yeah, interoperability is
Mhm.
extremely important. Not only I think it in a way that connects you throughout platforms. So let's say, for example, like I'm in, as you said, I'm in Decentraland and I want to go to Sandbox. Like
Mhm.
I think that's not the only way these need to be interoperable, but also I think in a sense of like transferring your assets throughout platforms, I think it's extremely important as well, because like if I let's say I'm working really hard within Sandbox, I'm a creator there, and I'm working really
Yeah.
hard to create some stuff there,
Mhm.
and let's say I earned something within the platform that is extremely important, like I don't want to be bound to the platform itself. Like I want to be able to transfer this asset throughout platforms in a seamless way, and also transfer what I already have. So let's say my avatar has some sort of appearance, some sort of look that I want to carry out throughout platforms. So I think that's a
Mhm.
huge challenge to address as well. Now that we're talking
Yeah.
about it, and I think it's going to be hard to address that, but we'll see.
Oh yes, I think it's very new, very nascent, and like transferring assets, your followers. Like the way I envision social media in this gamut of in this space is like you have about say about 10,000 followers on a particular platform, and now you want to change the platform. Nothing to do with the platform itself, but you want to have a new experience in a different platform. So you are able to, or every user, it's very sounds very complex also, that able to have the same set of followers to a new platform very easily, right? So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of back end work that needs to be done, interoperability and stuff. Bridges are coming up right now, like at a step one, but most of the hacks are happening at bridges level only as of now, especially in the
Yeah.
cryptocurrency state, right? So that's a tech challenge, but I'm sure, like, because people can are envisioning it, talking about it, I'm sure it'll be addressed, like in the near future.
Yeah,
What do you
definitely.
think?
I think there's a lot of new challenges that are gonna be like, given the mindset that we have right now. I think all of
Uh-huh.
these new challenges are going to be really hard to address. So, for example, let's think about interoperability by itself. What companies,
Hmm.
not companies, but like what businesses in general are trying to do is just basically getting together in these. For example, one of them is the Metaverse Standards Forum. So they're coming up with
Hmm.
these kind of like associations where they can come together and discuss matters like interoperability and come up with
Hmm.
standards basically. So that would be, if you think about, for example, when the internet started, like we had standards. So that is the
Uh-huh.
HTML, that is the JPG, for example, the GIF or maybe the GIF or however you want to call it. These are like
Yeah. Yeah.
standards. These are formats of the files in order to have a seamless communication with people throughout the internet, right? So these are standards.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to do now in the metaverse is coming up with these same standards so that these metaverse platforms can become interoperable. But at the same time, like this creates a different problem because like what if these standards, because these are companies creating standards, right? But what if the users are not satisfied with the same standards, right? So
Hmm.
users, on the other hand, they're gonna demand some stuff because at the end of the day, more not only in Web3, I would say, but
Hmm.
I guess worldwide, we're coming to the world that in general people are becoming more customer centric, so people are realizing the power that they have and the communities and whatnot, and they're coming together. And so we're entering, I like to say that we're entering this customer centric culture. So at the end of the day is all it's going to be all about the user, the end user, the customer, the end consumer, right? So the customer himself or herself are gonna demand these formats as well. They're gonna demand things to be in a certain way. So if you're coming
Yeah.
together, as a business with other businesses and coming up with standards, and if you don't know what users are gonna demand, it could generate a new problem. So I think, like, so that's a new challenge to address. Like that's something that hasn't really happened before throughout years of technology. So yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see not only this challenge but other challenges being addressed as well.
Oh, absolutely. And because see, people are still trying to experience it. Nobody knows, like you rightly mentioned, there is no set definition what a metaverse is. People are exploring different things.
Yeah,
Everybody's kind of have their own understanding and then a definition to it, right? So it'll come, it'll challenge. On that note, we have a question on a similar point, and it's going to show you right now. So it says, does everything in the metaverse have to be open in your opinion? So maybe you want
that's
to take
a
that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think from my perspective, I believe the metaverse should be completely open and completely interoperable and completely decentralized and whatnot. I know that it's
Mhm.
really hard to make that happen, because it requires a lot of stuff, a lot of not only technology but a lot of like conceptual, I would say infrastructure
Mhm.
that I think requires a lot of discussion and requires just basically a new mindset that we don't have as of now,
Yeah.
I think. So I believe that, an extremely open and interoperable metaverse. I think it's going to be really hard, a little hard to achieve. I think we're still a little far off from that. But on the other hand, like if you think about it like a more walled garden type of solution, it becomes a lot more feasible. But at the same time, like that's not the Web3 ethos, right? So I think, these are opposing concepts. One, a more closed metaverse is a lot more achievable, but a more open metaverse is, like, I would say, the dream state of the metaverse, but at the same time very hard to achieve. So if you look at the companies that are leading the way in terms of metaverse right now, if you think about Meta, for example, Meta, I know that Meta is trying to come up with like a more open type of solution. But if you look at Apple, because Apple is also working to develop their own metaverse platform, right? And they're also working towards developing a set of devices in order to enable the metaverse as well. So Apple, on the other hand, they're thinking about creating a more of a walled garden type of solution. So they're on the side of like creating a more closed metaverse, as opposed to what Meta is doing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. But from my perspective, yes, like the more open we are, the better, I believe. Because it gives the user a lot more freedom in several aspects of the word. Um,
Hmm.
but I think at this point, at least at this moment, we are relying a lot on what the leading companies are thinking about doing or maybe planning to do, right? Which could be a problem in the near future. But anyway,
Yeah, I hope, like, hopefully, we did not really get the name, so the user, hopefully that answers your question. And yeah, so I agree, like the advantage of, because we're talking in Web3, it has to be open. It has to be, open enough that people can easily move in and out of it. It should not be walled. It should not have, like, it could come. I think the walled metaverse could come from the point of, creating a financial ecosystem within itself, so that, it kind of pays back advertisers and everybody, because you can't have, people coming and, without having the eyeballs, and just a little restriction, I would say, not regulation, but a little restriction there, to make sure the finance side of it kind of catches up to the actual experience. And the other could be, like, let's give it freedom and see, what the market, if the market is willing to pay us or not. Like, eventually both systems need to make money, at the ground level, for the creators, for the advertisers, for the users. It needs to be experiential. So yeah, it's a different, it's going to be a nice way how these things evolve, right? And it's good to
yeah,
be talking too early about it. I'm just so kicked about it.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I think, and that's also at the same time, I think that's also an interesting situation to be in, because I think the metaverse, the actual metaverse, when the metaverse is really happening, and there's a lot of platforms, and it's completely interoperable. Like, let's say we're far in the future, like, I don't know, 15 years from now, and everything is
Mm.
happening. I think it's going to be a lot different from what we're imagining right now and what we're
Yeah.
discussing right now. But at the same time, like, it requires people like us, like, I would say, creators, or maybe people that are discussing Web3 and discussing the metaverse, and coming up with ideas and coming up with perspectives. I think that's going to
Yeah.
influence a lot of the people that are going to be developing these platforms in the future. So I think, it's going to be very different from what we imagine, but at the same time we're helping build it, which I think it's interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Because that's how you push the envelope. So, somebody who could be hearing our talk and might take, one or two pointers, from a user's point of view, and then, kind of do an experiment and want to know from other users, do they like this idea? Do they don't like this idea? And take it up.
Yeah,
Because eventually you need to invest time, money, energy, skills. A lot of things need to come together, to get it
yeah,
there. It's right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so I the way I usually see it is as, so in 1902, the first plane was kind of invented, right, by the Wright brothers. It took about
yeah,
a century, a little more than a century, to talk about going to Mars. What Elon Musk is saying, right? So, if you see that pattern, we started flying in 50 or 60 years, with the first planes, and then the single engine planes and that. But now we're talking about going to Mars. That's uh, like planetary. So same way, the way I see it is metaverse. We're talking about it, we're experiencing something. Maybe in the next, say, 10, 20, 30 years, it'll be totally different than what we experience today, and which you also rightly said. So it's a nice place to be in, and I think we're at the. I feel it's the right place at the right time. How we experience it, like, Yeah, so that's that. It's a very good space to be in, as long as you can survive the the down market right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you can survive that, or anybody can survive that, it's going to be tons of fun for you as an organization.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I completely agree. And I
Yeah.
think, one thing that you kind of talked about was, how these platforms are going to be making money or how they're going to be generating revenue in the near future. And I think, that's one of the places where advertising comes into play. That's where the creator economy comes into play. And that's also
Yeah.
why, for example, I love to talk about Roblox so much. If you follow me on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
you know that I talk a lot about Roblox. And so, I think that's why Roblox is. I see it such as such a beautiful platform because they're
Hmm.
nailing the model of what I believe the metaverse is going to be like. So they have
Yeah.
creators that are creating these games and creating clothing, creating several different assets to make the platform work and to make the platform more fun for users, and they're making
Hmm.
money at the same time. There are Roblox creators that have become millionaires thanks to Roblox. So I think Roblox is really nailing the model, and they're also introducing advertising there. They're also doing some other stuff. So I think when
Yeah.
you look at platforms like Roblox, I think you can see how amazing the model could be in the future,
Yeah.
and I think that's really fun to imagine. And so yeah, and I completely agree with you. Like at the end of the day, everyone has to make money, and so these platforms have to be open and interoperable and fun and decentralized and this and that, but they also have to generate revenue, right? And
Absolutely.
so yeah.
And that's why we come to what you are best at with metavertising. So let's get a little deep dive, like I think that's the right point to transition into understanding what metavertising does, like your company, what you do there in that space in metavertising. How do you envision advertising in metaverse? Is it just simple banners pasted on walls, or there's more, like logic, science, and behind it? Let's hear you out there.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, I like to answer these types of questions by taking a step back and looking at the history of advertising, right? So when you look
Yeah.
at the early stage of advertising, when advertising really started, around the
Hmm.
1900, um, when you had newspapers, you had sales letters, you had billboards, that's the early forms of advertising. That's how advertising has started. That's when copywriting was created. That's when the first copywriters started creating copywriting and sales letters
Uh-huh.
in the newspapers and whatnot. And so that's the,
Yeah.
the 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 early stage of advertising. So when you start looking at history and you start transitioning that, you had after that you had radio, and then you had advertising in the radio, then you had TV and you had advertising in TV, then came the internet and we had advertising in social media, and we had Google creating forms of advertising as well. We have advertising on YouTube. So that is the most modern form that we know of advertising, nowadays. That is
Mhm.
the
Yep.
ultimate form of advertising that we have nowadays. So when you start thinking about the metaverse, I believe that the marketers are going to have to shift their mindset towards what the metaverse can provide. So when you look at the metaverse and you start thinking about that advertising, for the first time in history, you have a medium that enables you to put the user at the center of your experience. So not anymore. We're
Hmm.
talking about a user that is scrolling through social media, and then he sees a post that is actually an ad, and then they decide to click on this ad, and it's just an image or maybe just a video on a social media app timeline. And that was like the old formats. Now the user is going to be at the center of an entire experience that is actually a branded experience, right? So when you
Yeah.
start looking at that, it's a complete mindset shift for marketers, right? It's a completely new
Yeah.
way to create a branded messaging, create a branded
Yeah.
experience. And now it's not anymore like just an image or a video on a social media app timeline. It's an entire experience that is crafted for your user specifically. And so when you start thinking about this context, advertising is going to change a lot. And so
Yeah.
basically, that's what we do at Metavertising. We create these branded experiences that are actually ads, you know. And so when you look at the possibilities of that, you know, for the first time in history, you can craft an entire experience, and your user is going to be at the center of it. It's going to be in the middle of it, having this entire branded experience, and sometimes they're not even going to realize it's an ad, you know, because it's so deep in their emotions, you know, it just plays with their emotions so well that they sometimes they don't even realize it's an ad. So I think that's really fun to imagine, and that's where Metavertising comes in. We help brands to create these branded experiences that are actually ads within Metaverse platforms, right? Or maybe outside of Metaverse platforms on maybe standalone experiences, right? So that's what we do, and
Nice.
I think that's a really, really fun space to be in.
Oh, absolutely. Why I say that is because now it's because of this Web3 and the creator economy coming up. It's the time of hyper individualization. Like you said, it's not the ad that you want to push, and then when somebody scrolls through and clicks on it, that's how you actually count it. Now people can actually experience it and like touch and feel it, so to say. If you're going in a metaverse and you want to touch the product and and then probably rotate it and see how it's like, I think, similar to what RTKFT did it with the shoe, right? It's a form of advertising, right? You go into a game, you have a digital asset, you want to experience it, you want to wear it, and that's where augmented reality also comes into the picture. Like outside of the metaverse and the virtual worlds, you can experience that, right? And see, so a lot of brand companies are coming up with platforms, AR enabled platforms, furniture companies, clothing companies, like glasses, like you want to wear glasses or spectacles, try them out virtually in AR before you actually go ahead and make the purchase, right? So
Yeah,
it's
I
a
think
different ball game of experiencing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also a part of what, you know, what we want to do at Metavertising, and also a part of what I believe Metaverse advertising is going to be. You know, it's enabling the user to have these immersive experiences at the end of the day that are actually ads. You know, so the example that you gave of, like, for example, you being able to put a shoe, or maybe being able to put a pair of glasses in augmented reality just to see how it looks before you actually buy it, I think that's a form of Metaverse
Mhm.
advertising, you know. And
Yeah,
you know, that's extremely fun to imagine, you know, because at the end of the day, people are still going to be buying stuff, you know. People are still going to want to buy, you know, maybe they want to buy brands, maybe they don't want to buy brands, but at the end of the day, they're still going to buy, you know, these consumer items, you know, which could be fashion, it could be also in other realms. But it's fun to imagine that you can have the next best thing besides actually owning the product. So think about, for example, driving a BMW without having the actual BMW. So you can get the closest experience that is to actually drive a
yeah,
BMW in
yeah.
any part of the world, but without actually having to own the BMW. So I think that's really fun to imagine. And I think that's a form of metaverse advertising.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one example carrying that forward is the Skoda Wars, right? Like, I think we got some experience of that, to go to Skoda Wars, drive their cars, experience what, their metaverse is all about, how you explain their cars. You can actually drive a path around it, around the pathway. So it's interesting where the world is going towards, you know,
Definitely.
right? Right.
Definitely.
And so I have a little, like a opposite question to that. So because we're talking about metaverse, we're sitting at one place and experiencing a lot of stuff. All right. Uh, so from a health point of view, if may I ask that, like, you're less active, physically you're less active, you're mentally more active, right? So
Right.
over a period of time, do you think that does that create a challenge? Like, I know it's very early to talk about it, but now that we are here, so let's talk about it, because it can
Yeah,
create a
I think,
challenge, right? Like
yeah, no, definitely,
obesity, health
definitely.
issues, and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you, and I think that should be a concern because at the end of the day, I think what the metaverse is just basically a tool, you know, and the tool can
Yeah,
be used both from a good way or from a bad way, you know, and that depends on the people that are using it, right? Because at the end of the day,
yeah,
what what these things that we're talking about really are basically tools, you know. So advertising, for example, could be used in a harmful way. For example, it could be used in a
Yeah.
way that, you know, companies are harvesting so much data from the users that they can create these extremely immersive, extremely amazing advertising that just the end goal of it is just to convert you and make money off of you, you know. So at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you know, metaverse advertising could be used in a bad way. And so when you start
Yeah.
thinking about these tools, you know, virtual reality, augmented reality, these immersive worlds where people just basically have to sit and they don't have to be very active and they just have to sit there and just basically, you know, have this entire experience from their couch, it creates definitely not only this concern from a health perspective, but it creates like a lot of a set of like new concerns that we have never worried about and we have never talked about and we have never discussed that I believe are going to
Yeah.
be are going to have to be discussed nowadays. So I think yes, yeah, I completely agree with you. It does raise a new set of challenges and it does raise a new set of concerns, but I think
Hmm.
it's going to be not only up to the user to make the right decisions at the end of the day, but I think it's going to be up to also businesses and organizations to raise the awareness towards these types of problems and how to address these types of problems, right? So we have some organizations that are already taking care of that. So we have, for example, the XR. If I'm not mistaken, it's called XR Safety Organization, which is an
Hmm.
organization based in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken, that they're
Hmm.
raising the awareness towards the potential of brands in metaverse environments and how to make it safe for people to navigate these environments while at the same time brands are creating their experiences there, you know, in a way that doesn't manipulate the users. And there's also organizations that are very concerned about children. So if you look at Roblox, for example, Roblox nowadays, it's
Hmm.
all about you know, the fun of these children and
Yeah.
enabling children to play these games within Roblox and have a lot of fun with their friends and whatnot. But when you start thinking about advertising in an environment like Roblox that is full of children, it raises a
Hmm.
new set of concerns, you know, that
Yeah.
that should be discussed and should be talked about, you know, because at the end of the day, what these can do is basically manipulate the children, and so that's really, you know, it's an actual concern, you know, it's something that you definitely need to talk about. So there's also organizations worried about that and discussing these types of things. So absolutely, you know, like we need to talk about these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what I agree with that is what happens is, like if you step back and see it, when things evolve, so there are always checks and balances, which automatically develop. Like, in this case, this
Yeah,
organization, we're just trying to help and caution the users and maybe create some safety measures. And this eventually, with a lot of people and the metaverse consortium coming together, would evolve into kind of a default checklist that you need to kind of take care of
yeah.
before creating a platform, right?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And something that I used to say to my friends is that the internet should have a guidebook, you know, it should have a set of
Yeah.
rules, you know, that before you get into the internet, you are aware of these rules, like a book that when you purchase like an internet connection provider for your home,
Yeah.
like when you purchase Wi-Fi, it comes with this little book of the rules of the internet, you know, like I believe the internet should have had that. So I think, you know, now that we're entering web3, I think it's going to be really needed that that web3 in general has these kind of guardrails, you know, so that people don't go too far off from what is considered to be safe for everyone, you know.
Yeah. Oh yes.
And yeah,
Yeah, so I think the safety and security measures kind of are important there. Like it'll evolve. Eventually, it'll evolve. That's the way I see it. Eventually it'll evolve
definitely.
their way, and people would, and then it's the same with everything. Like there'll be good things to it. There are going to be negative sides to it. It's just what you want to use out of it, and what you essentially are as a person, and which gets
Definitely.
resonated with. You want to use experiences for enhancing education, training, like meeting people and stuff like that, or you want to do some scams and stuff. So it
Yeah,
essentially
I
comes down to
completely
the
agree.
individual. Yeah. Nice, cool. And yeah, so how, let's understand the team structure. So how big is your team right now?
Oh, right now we're a set of like less than 10 people, I think. We're a very
Ah,
small,
nice.
still very small team, and I think that's the right way to do it right now. I think, there's a concept when it comes to startups that I really love that says that at the beginning, you probably should be doing things that don't scale, because that's how you eventually understand what are the stuff that you can scale and start growing. So we're a very small team still, and we're all based in Brazil, and I think the demand right now, although although I believe the demand has grown a lot throughout 2022, I think there's still a lot of room to grow. And I think there's still a lot of companies that don't understand the potential of Web3 and don't understand the potential of the metaverse. So I think we're still very far off from what it could be, but at this
Yeah.
moment we're still small, and I'm very proud of that.
Oh, that is nice. Like we are even smaller. So, so you see, so one of my favorite book is, if you can see, the Lean Startup.
Yeah, the lean startup, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the nicest book. So you have it. I have it right here next to me. Every
Yeah,
time I
that's
have to
that's
go
kind of
through the
like
things.
the Bible of
Yeah.
everyone that wants to start a company. I think everyone that
Yeah.
wants to start a company has to go through this book because it's going to be really enlightening.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic book. So what was the challenge? Putting this team together. Okay, so you have a small team, but like it must have come with fair share of challenges, right?
I think the main challenge right now is finding the right expertise. I think when it comes to the
Yeah.
metaverse, I think that's the main challenge because at the end of the day, like since I'm the head of the company and I'm the founder and CEO, I have to be ahead of the game as well, and like I have to be able to understand, the metaverse, understand what is happening right now within the metaverse, and also what is the future of the metaverse, right? So I have to be
Yeah.
ahead of these discussions. I have to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So when you're ahead of the curve, and when you have this perspective that is ahead of the majority of the rest of the people in the world, you also are very demanding towards the stuff that you want, right? You are going to be demanding regarding like your team. You're going to be demanding regarding the skills that you're going to be hiring, for people in your team. You're going to be
Yeah.
extremely demanding because you know what's happening right now, and you know what's also about to happen. Now, I'm not saying that I can predict the future or anything, but like
Yeah.
like I have a perspective that is very singular at this moment, and so
Yeah.
because of that, I'm very demanding as well. Like I'm very demanding of the people that work with me. And I think that's the biggest challenge. It's finding people that actually resonate towards that, and like can provide the skills that I'm looking for, but at the same time, like they also see what I see. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the biggest challenge.
Oh, yeah, I totally resonate, like because everybody in the team needs to look in the same direction, right? And the
Exactly.
founder, like the person who's steering the ship, needs to drive that direction and make sure that, that direction is, say, I would say 80 to 90% accurate. Not, you cannot be
Hmm.
accurate 100% of the time, but
Yeah,
most of the
definitely.
time you have to be accurate to kind of, scale it up and, uh,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so,
That's the
right.
challenges of every business owner, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So are you also building products? Like, I know it's a service-based model right now, but are you also building products within or you have plans of building a product?
Well, to be completely honest, I would love to build a product. I would absolutely love to build a product, but I'm not a I'm not a developer myself, so I cannot just build
Mm.
something, So I would need the right people in place to build something. So I would love to do that. I don't have any perspective of doing that right now because I just can't. If I could, I would
Yeah,
just build it myself, but
yeah,
I can't. But I would love to, and maybe it's just a matter of finding the right co-founder for that. Maybe I don't know.
yeah. Oh no, and I get it. It's not easy, and especially when you're starting up doing multiple things, or it can be a challenge. But see, what happens is, what I feel personally, being again, I have been into product for a long period of my career, and then starting a service like my ours is also Animo Solution is also service based organization right now. I think people in services are more adapt in a way to create products because you're dealing on a similar type of service with tens of clients. So you kind of know where the challenges and the gaps are. And
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
if you create that into a product, I think, and you already have customers relationships there, right? So that becomes very easy to, even say, get the initial customers to try them out, the alpha level, beta level, right? So I think the service companies are very rightly placed. I'm not sure why too many of them don't do it, but some really do, and they scale up.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
a
that is
nice way
true.
of looking
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, definitely. I think, having a service-based businesses, it allows you to basically see what are the challenges in the stuff that you're going to be developing a product in,
yeah,
and this allows you to be also ahead of the curve in that sense, and yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a really nice way to look at it.
yeah. Fantastic. Nice, Eli. I think we're pretty much at the top of the hour. So I'll just have, few more questions. I have tons of things to ask you, but I think, we are already around, in there. And I think we could go on, with the things that
Yeah,
keep
definitely. I
talking
would
on.
love to continue the
Yeah.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We can have, like maybe another round with you, but, it's pleasurable, it's pleasure to have you here. So just few more questions,
Thank you.
like quick answer questions, uh,
Okay.
so your outlook on Web3, like I know you deal with a lot of people in Web3 space with metaverse, blockchain, and tokenomics and everything. So before the our future outlook, maybe what is your experience of dealing with people? Are they aware of it? Are they open to this idea? Are they able to make a separation between what Web3, like it entails multiple things with cryptocurrency?
Are you asking like regarding people in general, or just people that I'm just talking about Web3 within the Web3 space?
No, general, people mostly outside, because people in Web3 kind of
Yeah,
aware, what they're dealing with, right? People outside of
yeah,
it when you talk to them.
yeah. I think right now, in general, it's actually funny when you talk about it with people because you see that people have a lot of misconceptions. So, for example, depending on who you're talking to about NFTs, this person might think that NFTs are actually a scam. There
Yeah.
there are actually people that think that NFTs are a scam.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on who you're talking to, this person is going to have a set of very different ideas that are completely far off from what it actually is. So
Mm-hmm.
so I think there's this kind of like disconnection happening worldwide right now. But I think that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, it's nice that people actually know that there's this thing called metaverse. They actually know
Yeah.
that there's this thing called NFTs, and
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know what it really is, but they know that this thing exists. So I think that's the state that we're in right now, especially given the fact that I'm in Brazil. And so I think Brazil is typically like a little behind in terms of like technology and like understanding these concepts. So if you go
Mm-hmm.
to a regular person in the United States, they might have a completely different point of view rather than the person here in Brazil. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, but I think in general, speaking globally regarding like pretty much everyone that lives in the planet, you know I think there's a good amount of people that know that this thing exists, the metaverse. They know what the word, they know the words. They know that there's this thing called metaverse. They know that there's this thing
Mm-hmm.
called NFTs, but they don't know what it
Mm-hmm.
is really. Like they have some ideas around it. They think they know what it is, but they really don't know what it is. So I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
state that we're in right now.
Yeah. So yeah. So like that's where education comes into the picture, and I think all of us are doing our bit, to get to at least the right education in front of people, right? So
Definitely,
that's kind of
definitely.
very
I completely
important.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. So now the quick fire questions. So your outlook for Web3 growth: positive, negative, neutral, as of today.
I think positive, definitely positive.
Fantastic. That's nice. And one or two critical pieces of advice for people, primarily students or the first-time entrepreneurs who are getting into Web3 space right now.
I think first and foremost, get get ready to be resilient. Like prepare yourself to be resilient because I think we're still very far off from what the space could really become.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're
Mm-hmm.
still years off. So that means two things, right? It means there's a lot of opportunities, but it also means there's a lot of risk, right? And
Yeah.
for example, there's a lot of people getting into the space. They don't really know what to explore, and that's because there's not much to explore yet. In the sense of like there are not many
Yeah.
tools. There's
Yeah.
not there's not many things that you could get yourself into, in the sense of like, oh, for example, if you look at Web 2 nowadays, you could be a creator on YouTube, you could be a streamer on Twitch, you could be an influencer on Instagram, for example. You could
Mm-hmm.
work within these big software companies. So there's a lot of stuff that you could do. There's a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at Web3, there's not many options because there's not many things built just yet. So
Mm-hmm.
while that is a huge risk, it's also a huge opportunity because it means there's a lot of things that you could potentially develop within the space. But that means a huge risk as well. So I think,
Yeah.
first and foremost, you're going to have to be resilient. If you really want to explore the space, you're going to have to be patient. you know don't ditch your current career and like throw everything in the air and like start going towards Web3. Don't do that. Don't leave your current job. Start, explore Web3, but see it as a side hustle, see it as a hobby. Because it's really hard to make money in the space right now. I personally believe. So that's number one. Be resilient. And second of
Yeah.
all, be creative. Be innovative. Understand that the space needs people to create new things right now. It needs innovative people. It needs forward thinkers. So I think, be able to be ready to be bold. To explore, to innovate, to push the boundaries, because I think that's what the space needs right now.
Yeah. Fantastic. I think those are great advices for anybody listening in who wants to join Web3 now. Listen to those. Resilient, and like do some start step by step, right? Don't just go all in right now. And we've got some funny comments also regarding us. So it's like somebody said. So I'll just show them up on screen. So Nicholas says dream team.
Hey, Nicholas,
So
thank
that's a
you.
good, yeah, yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, Nicholas.
what yeah, nice. And then Augusto said, you know, Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul Jabbar. So that's you. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, like fantastic. And then there's certain somebody talking about I'm a so somebody's talking about like Apex Legend was also a good game. So
Oh,
this was when
Apex
you talk
Legend.
about the game.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
Apex, by the way. But
yeah,
like, I don't play Apex myself, but I watch a lot of streams of Apex
yeah,
Legend gamers on Twitch. So I
yeah.
absolutely love
Yeah.
it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, nice. And then there was one point, like I'm a gamer too. Somebody got resonated, with you when you were talking about the games.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Nice.
like, dude, I think, now that we're entering Web3, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for gamers. If you look at
Yeah,
the opportunities that gamers have right now, that's really amazing. If you think about
yeah,
20 years in the past, if you look at, when PlayStation was invented, when Nintendo was invented, and you look at what
yeah,
we have right now in terms of gaming, like how much we've
yeah,
evolved. Like we have professional gamers now. We have gamer streamers. Like we have gamer content creators. We have all of these
yeah.
things. And so to see how much we've evolved 20 years, in the past, until now, like it's an amazing development. And to think about how much we're going to evolve in that sense 20 years from now, like how much gamers are going to become, like gaming is already a career, but it's going to become even more than that. So I think that's really fun to imagine.
Oh, absolutely. So I hope Arijit, you got your answer. Uh, you know,
Yeah,
so keep studying if you're a student. I can see from the picture you're pretty young. So if you're a student, keep studying. Don't get off that. But
yeah,
but there's a
definitely.
scope as a professional career. Like being a gamer. All
Yeah,
right, cool. I think Eli, that has been a fantastic talk. I think one of the longest that I've had here, and I know we could go on, but
yeah, definitely.
from a time perspective, it's been a
Definitely.
pleasure having you here. Thank you so much, and yeah, have a great day.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Thank you everyone that was watched to us today. I hope you found this conversation enlightening. Thank you for the invite, Alec. And yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's for you guys. And yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Let me just end the broadcast here. All right.